Hey, thanks for tuning in to 915 High School Football Insiders out here at Parkland High School with Coach Leigh McWhorter. Coach, thanks for having us out here.
Thanks for coming.
Hey, again, Coach, it's a little bit different interviewing you as opposed to some of the other head coaches I've interviewed just because of the time you've been doing it, some of the coaches you've actually influenced coming up, and your perspective because you've been across the state coaching. But if you could kind of just walk us through your history in high school football as a player, and then how it led you into coaching and everything like that, we really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Pardon me if I get long-winded. My plan when I graduated from college and I finished playing was to become an elementary school teacher. I know I was raised by a single mother. There are not a lot of positive male role models in young people's lives. They're being raised by single parents, specifically their mothers. So that's what I wanted to do. Well, I actually taught first grade for a semester and found out it wasn't for me. You got to be a special person to teach kindergarten, first grade. And at the end of that semester, I resigned, and luckily I got picked up at Terrace Hills Middle School. And at Terrace Hills Middle School, I met Patrick Brown. And he's had a big impact in terms of my coaching, my professional life. He asked me in the halls one day, because he knew my ex-wife from kinesiology courses that they took together at UTEP, if I'd be interested in helping him out coaching the team. He was the 8th grade football coach at the time. And, I didn't have a whole lot going on. I don't really have hobbies and whatnot. So one day I went out there, and I've been coaching ever since, honestly. And he made the move to Chapin when it first opened. He dropped my name to Coach Walker at the time. And Coach Walker, coincidentally, was at Andrews when I graduated. He got on like in 95, 96. I graduated in 94. So there'd be summers where I went back to work out on the field and we'd run into each other. So we kind of knew each other. But the second year of Chapin's opening, he brought me on the staff. It was going to be their first year varsity with juniors. And
now, Coach, I don't want to interrupt you a little bit, but I'm going to let you name drop.
Okay.
Who were some of those students who were there at Chapin at that time?
Okay, so let's start off with Ryan Warner.
I've heard that name a little bit here recently.
Absolutely. So Ryan Warner is now newly named the head coach at Pebble Hills.
Absolutely. Great hire, by the way. I support that.
Absolutely. Coach Frank Martinez, who's at El Dorado. He played for me, and I knew him from middle school actually as well. He played for me in middle school. Andrew Macias, who's the OC at El Dorado, he played for me as well. Marco Chavez, who's the DC at Chapin, played for me as well. Coach Holiday, who's the wide receivers coach at Andrews, played for me. Coach Wynn, who's the DC over there, played for me at Franklin. Coach Danny Rodriguez, who's at Chapin as well, played for me my last year at Chapin. So there's some names there.
Okay.
I hope I didn't forget anybody.
And we won't get you in trouble because we're going to just keep naming people. We'll be here 15 minutes later, Coach. But again, I just had to put that in there for you in case you weren't going to toot your own horn.
Yes, sir.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Absolutely.
But so you're out there at Chapin with Coach Brown and Coach Walker, coincidentally, who's a name you're going to hear pretty much every time I interview somebody.
Absolutely.
But anyway.
So we were there for 5 years, had some great teams, some great success. Met some great people. We had a really good campus that was tied together with sports and academics and artistically as well. And it was hard, but the job at Franklin was offered to him and he wasn't going to go without us. So he made it a point to sit us down, let us know what he wanted to do. And he made that move and we said, we're with you, Coach. So we went to Franklin and we were there for 6 years and had a lot of success as well. At that point, Patrick Brown, it was his time to become a head coach. Andrus happened to open up and he wanted to make me his OC. So from there, we spent 3 years at Andrus. From there, we wanted to explore just the rest of Texas and see if we could compete with those guys as far as coaching was concerned. We went to San Antonio, Sam Houston, and it's kind of an inner city school. They hadn't had a whole lot of success at the point that we got there, and we went undefeated the regular season, first district championship undefeated season that they had in 20 plus years. Things didn't necessarily work out there. I don't want to speak ill of anybody, just long term it was going to work out for us. So Coach Brown put his name in the pot again and explored some options. And we made our way down to South Texas to Los Fresnos High School. We spent 6 years there. They wanted to make a different move is in terms of a head coach at that point, even though we had success there as well. Our first 2 seasons, we went to the 3rd round, played Lake Travis, who went on to become the state champions. So when that happened, my son was a junior and he was going into his senior year. So I told him, hey, I'll stay here and I'll just teach and ride this thing out while you play your last season. And, my son and I are just, we're tight, man. So he's like, man, I'm going where you go. And Coach McWhorter and Coach Walker offered me an OC spot back here in El Paso and to move back. Let my son make the pick, and he wanted to go to Franklin. So we spent his senior year at Franklin. We had a really good season, really great group of kids, one district. And there was a certain point where Coach Walker had fallen ill. They named me the interim head coach. And it just kind of put my name back on the map. So when Parkland opened up, I interviewed for the position. I was lucky enough to get it. And we just completed our 2nd season here. This is going into our 3rd.
And here we are.
Yes, sir.
So I think that's great. And again, you hit on some things I like to talk about and I'll talk about later, and that's role models and stuff like that. And again, elementary school role models are great. I'm a little bit biased, but I think football coaches have a little bit more, with a smaller group of people, yes, have a little bit more impact on a special group of kids. So tell me, this season coming up, it's a little bit different.
Yes, sir.
We've had some district change here across El Paso. This is my first time talking to somebody who's on the inside of the other change. One change, of course, is the real big 5A D2 district, which impacted some people different ways. But I think it impacted your district, 5A D1. I think it impacted that district a little bit differently. Right. I won't judge. I'll let you speak on that. And just give me your take, 2 things about how it is, your feelings on the district, and how you're going to approach it with your team as we go into this coming season.
Okay, so, for those who aren't familiar with the process, every 2 years, the state does a realignment, and it's just numbers. So they take student population from top to bottom, and they decide what the cutoffs are per district, 6A, 5A. And in football specifically, there's a big 6A, small 6A, big 5A, small 5A. So where the cutoff was in El Paso, it just put us in a precarious position because Americans in El Dorado, who had been 6A, were dropping down to 5A. Bel Air is the biggest school in our former district, so they were going to be in the big 5A. But in order to have a district, you have to have a minimum 4 teams. And, I wanted to be proactive in the situation because you can always opt up, you can't opt down. We were going to be in a big mess of a district with a small 5A, and I just took it upon myself after some thought and speaking to our AD Martin Segovia that it would probably be a good move for us to go up to big 5A. I don't let my kids fall short of any expectations. So it's going to be a challenge playing those teams who numbers wise are much bigger than us. But what we bring to the table in terms of our work ethic and our discipline and our competitiveness, I think we can compete with anybody.
Well, I mean, to be quite frankly, it's the district you've been in, and you've always been a smaller team, and you've always competed well.
Right.
You've acquitted yourself well, the team has. And again, you didn't hit on it but there's been some historic athletes who've come through here that went on to great things at, whether it's Deion Hankins,
right,
at UTEP, whether it's DJ Crest up in Texas Tech,
yes, sir,
or whether you got, Tyrone McDuffie, all those guys. You guys have always had great athletes, great coaching, and have played well. So I don't think there's, too much of a difference there. But I think the one big difference that I want to talk about, if you don't mind, is the fact that with the short notice and also the big district, how it affects you having to go into districts knowing you're going to play teams twice?
Right. So with it only being 4 teams, we have 3 games. We would have to schedule 7 non-district games, and that's an impossible task. We could get to 4 and 5, but at that point, everybody's already in their district play. So, the only other option would be to either have a shortened season, but we're not going to sacrifice those games for the seniors. We would never do that. Never that. You only get so many games anyway. So we opted to play each other twice, almost like a divisional NFL schedule, which is interesting. It's different, and everyone knows how difficult it is to beat somebody twice. But we're willing to take on that challenge.
Yeah. Again, I think it puts a lot of perspective on the decision you made, and context for people who might not know that went into that decision that made it that much tougher of a decision, and again, I think the decision you made is for the greater good of football, especially a team like Bel Air, who it was going to be even harder for them afterwards. So again, that puts a lot of perspective on that.
And if I can add to that, opting up, if you're just talking, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back by any means, but I think it benefits all of El Paso, because now you're talking about cutting down on travel costs. Fans not being able to see their kids play because there was going to be so much travel between here, Lubbock, Amarillo.
That was going to be hard decisions.
Right.
And again, that might not be a hard decision for a school somewhere else.
Right.
But we rocked the boat we got, and that would have been a different for you and other teams again.
Absolutely. So we're going to keep everything local. Everybody's going to see their kids play. We're going to save our district a ton of money, and I think it's going to benefit everybody.
Yeah, coach is not patting yourself on the back of the shoe.
So.
But okay, so talk to me a little bit about what's going on. We've talked to a lot of schools, and we talk about their feeder schools. For you, it's simple. Parkland Middle School. Talk to me about what's going on over there and why we should be excited for these incoming freshmen you got coming in.
We have just the one middle school, our feeder program, that's Parkland Middle, and they do an outstanding job with athlete participation. We've got a huge middle school in terms of numbers because they're not separated, and that the key for us is to keep them all here. There are so many options in terms of magnet schools and whatnot, and traditionally kids would explore those options, go to a school like maybe Chapin or Andrus or anywhere else for that matter. But during these 2 years here that I've been here now, the goal is to keep all of our kids together. And if we can do that, then, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Sky's the limit.
I'm biased, but I do believe the Northeast is like a stronghold for talent still. Despite trends in the city out to the far east, I think there's still a lot of good talent here. Now, talking about that, and we're talking about those incoming freshmen, tell me about it, what it's like in your program. What can that rising freshman expect day one when he comes here for the summer workout programs at Parkland High School?
Okay, so what we do is we generally start early in the morning just to suit everybody. We have kids who have jobs. We have kids who go to summer school and whatnot, and they're fine with working out in the morning before they have to tend to their classes or to work. So with the freshmen coming in, we work everybody out together. We separate the groups. We keep the freshmen together because generally speaking, we're trying to show them the specifics of technique in our drills outside and what we do here in the weight room. But they interact with the older kids because I think it's important that they see what the standard is and how we operate.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about early morning. I usually feel like that's like the biggest wake-up call for a lot of these rising ninth graders, the rising freshmen, because summer for them is sleep in till noon,
Absolutely.
Maybe 1 or 2 o'clock, and then all of a sudden, hey, they're that guy that just came out of the 8th grade. It's 9 o'clock. There's a guy who's leaving to go to work, and he's going to drive off in his car in a little bit, and it's a little bit of a mindset to where like, oh, it just got serious,
right?
Because I like to tell the kids, in youth football, like, after 13 youth football, it's 19 youth football. And that's what you play now.
Right.
It's like, and to have that mindset that it's like, hey, you're with the big boys now.
Yes, sir.
And I will ask that quick question, Coach. Hey, I'm sorry I sprung this on you.
No,
just what it's like, because I'm just going to give you perspective. Bring them in here and start molding them. Tell me what it's like from your perspective as you get that young guy, you build him as he's gonna get out and compete now across the state, not just locally?
I want them to have, it's difficult sometimes because a lot of kids in El Paso don't necessarily travel or have the perspective of what it's like elsewhere. I do. Again, I've coached in those other places. I've seen those other teams and the type of programs they run, the resources that they have to work with. So despite any expectations that they have of themselves or their parents may have of themselves, I want them to max out whatever their potential is, whatever that is, whatever that looks like. It's going to be different for everybody. And if you're talking about average, to me, and I tell this to my kids often, there's a floor and a ceiling for each of you. Now, how low is your floor? How high is your ceiling? Well, let's go ahead and raise that floor, okay? Let's raise that floor because we don't want that big of a gap between the two. We want it as close together as possible. You're maxing out, you're getting your ceiling because your floor is not that low. I'm big on work. Everything here right now is the rent is due. I tell my kids that all the time. And that's an investment that you're making in yourself every single day. And of course, our motto here at the school is to be a Matador is glorious. So every day as the rent is due, be glorious.
I love that. To be a Matador is glorious.
Yep.
I'm definitely going to tie that in. Now, as they work their way from freshman to senior, one of the things I like to hit on with coaches as well is you got those guys, because to have a good program like that, when a freshman comes in, you've got those juniors and seniors who have been in the program. Those are the guys, because coaches, you only got, a finite amount of them, but the players are everywhere. So you got those coaches who become leaders because they've been in the program. So if you just want to take a moment, we all know about the big numbers guys, the guys that are going to have definable stats and stuff like that. But if you want to just take some time, coach, and tell me about some of those guys you lean on, the players to be leaders in the program, first in the weight room, last out, policing up young freshmen, because I had a coach who used to tell me every time a freshman's messing up, there's a senior who watched them do it.
Right.
So tell me about those guys in your program, coach.
So, they're an extension of the coaching staff. So it's not necessarily a talent thing. It's not whether or not you're a star. It's, how do you contribute every day? And if you're a guy who's been steady and consistent throughout the years and you become a junior and a senior at that point, I would expect you to voice what needs to be done, because everybody here is connected. Every player, everything they do is connected to their teammates. So be it that they're in the classroom acting up, if they're out in the community acting up, if they're doing well out in the community, if they're doing well in the classroom, it shines a light on our program. So it's important that, just like parents and kids at home, it's one thing to hear something from your dad. It's another thing to have that echo, from someone else.
Absolutely.
And, I think our leaders do a good job of echoing what the standards are.
And who are some of those leaders you're going to lean on going into the season, coach?
Okay, so right now we've got Isaac Ramada, who's going to be a senior. He's a defensive end for us. He's an outstanding young man. Caleb Martinez plays running back, kickoff return.
I used to coach Caleb Martinez.
Okay, he's great. He's in our student council.
Running for student president, I believe.
And he is. Okay. And then he is a prime example of, outside of the football stuff, of what I would love all of our kids to model, because he's great in the classroom. He's top 5. He, Coach Sarver, our cheerleading coach, who does an outstanding job with our cheer program. She needed some male representation for state competition. He was the first one to jump on it. He's a star on the track. He does the student council stuff, community service, and he's a pretty good football player.
He is a pretty good football player. Again, I shout out his dad, JC.
Yeah.
JC's a pretty good guy. Younger brother as well, so you might have a 2-for-1 in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coach. Again, and it's great when you got guys like that again, that build the program, and they can be those enforcers, those coaches when you're not around. And again, it speaks to what you do as a coach when you build them up like that, as freshmen, as they come along the pipeline to become those senior and junior leaders. So I can appreciate that. And again, coach, if you want to just take any one last time to say, as parents and young 8th graders make their decision on, like you said, options are out there for young. What's your one last pitch to why a parent should want their child to choose Parkland?
Because if a young man comes through our program, they are going to be better. They're going to be a better football player. They're going to be a better athlete. They're going to be a knowledgeable football player. They're going to be good in the classroom. I have expectations of what they're to do and what they're not to do in the classroom, out in the community, out on the football field, and I'm consistent with it. So, for example, our grade checks, we do them every week, not just during the season, every week. I communicate with our teachers, frequently on whether or not kids are going to class tardy, whether or not they're doing their work, if their behavior's on point. We have an early college program here at Parkland, which a lot of schools here in town don't offer. So academics is at the premium. And then, we're gonna be pretty good on the football field as well. So, when those opportunities arise and we're gonna reach those potential max out years, then we're gonna make runs in the playoff, and they're gonna be better for it.
I tell you what, Coach, I don't think we've been ever so lucky that one man didn't work out as an elementary school teacher. Because I tell you what, you're doing great things here just on the outside looking in. All those things you said are accurate. I know some of the kids coming through the pipeline. You're doing a great job, Coach. I appreciate you having us out.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.